Up and running. I think all members of the committee are here except for Mr. Batman, correct? Oh. Heidi is on the call.
Yes, I'm on Zoom.
All right, so the first thing we have to do is approve the minutes from May 12th. I have a motion. Motion. Move it.
Nightingale, second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. No appointments. So I guess Ms. Stingler, you're on cue.
Good evening. You have my report. There's a couple of things I would like to highlight on there. The first in respect to Discovery. Thank you to everyone who supported that last month. We've gotten the word out. We weren't doing very well getting applications through the normal processes through civil service. We only got about 4 applications and none of them met the minimum qualifications. So unfortunately, I think people were failing to look at the quals when they were applying. So I did speak to Lisa about this and we made the decision to put it on Indeed. She put it on Indeed last Saturday and we've gotten 36 applications as a result of that. We have not filtered those yet. She actually was working on printing those all out for me so that I could go through those and take a look to see if we indeed have candidates that do meet the qualifications. It will be money well spent if that's the case. And I'll update committee once I get all the applications and I can review them. Also on there, you'll see grants. The statewide interoperable emergency communications grant for 20 was finally released. The RFA came out about 2 weeks ago and I submitted it last week. So now we're waiting on the awards for both the PSAP 20 and the SEEK 20, which will definitely improve our budget for this year. Once I have those awards amounts, I'll certainly advise. The last thing I want to highlight is I did add the aging equipment on the bottom of my agenda. We're really starting to see equipment age. It's unfortunate that we spent the amount of money that we do on a system, and the radio infrastructure itself, some of that is a good 15, 20, some even 30 years for longevity, but the UPS units, generators, batteries, those are all starting to, we're starting to see failures at some of our sites. So we've been working on some quotes for that. We've got a couple of sites that are priority sites, and we do have a little bit of grant money that I was able to reallocate from our SEEK 18. That grant was mainly used for the generator project, but we had a small amount left. So we're going to use that to replace batteries at both our public safety facility at the DC power plant there, as well as the UPS unit at the Osborne site in Auburn. All of the other sites are good 10 years old now. We put the system back in between 2011 and 2012. So it's normal for this to be the case, but we definitely need to start looking at that. I'm hoping that based on our grant awards that we will be able to use grant funding to take care of all of this. Because it's certainly not something that we want to have to ask taxpayers to absorb. So I'll do everything I can to get that done through grant funding. I think that's all I have. I don't have any resolutions this month. We're working on a new microwave project. The weather is going to be helpful with regards to getting that done in a timely fashion. And yeah, I think that's all I have for tonight.
Questions for, yes, Elaine?
Denise, I have just a couple questions. The data analyst position, I assume that's going to end up being a provisional fill. You don't have a list that obviously the new title.
Correct. They're going to have to take a test once we are able to host one.
And then are you the PSAP and the SEEK grants, even though you pay getting them, you did not include that funding as part of your budget. So is that what you're referring to?
That's correct. Yeah, that'll be additional funding.
What do you think the amount of this unanticipated revenue is going to end up being if you get awarded both those grants?
So if I have to speculate, I'm gonna go with probably around 175,000 for the PSAP. And the SEEK grant can fall anywhere between, that can be maybe between 7 and 900,000, depending on how it's allocated and how many counties apply.
So
So
that's,
we look at close to $1 million.
yeah, you could be looking at to upgrade some of this equipment you're talking about.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely, no problem.
Any other questions for Denise? Mark, you're okay? You're good? Good. All right.
Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we keep our fingers crossed on that position.
Yeah, that was exciting to hear the amount of applications. So like I said, once I'm able to go through those, I'll definitely give you some feedback.
I thought they did Indeed for all new hires,
I
no?
guess not.
No, Elaine, in fact, generally they only do use that service for high level positions because it's not cheap. So I think in talking to Lisa, it sounds like they used it for the IT position and maybe EMO. But generally it's not used for these types of positions, but I'm hopeful that we'll get something out of this.
Okay,
Next on the agenda would be Lloyd Hoskins with the Assigned Council and Stop PWI. Is Lloyd on call?
I am, Mr. Chair. How are you?
Good. Now I can see you.
There you go. Mr. Chairman, the Assigned Council Office, you received our report for the month of May. I got one correction and one update. We did have 64 in-person arraignments. We now went from virtual to in-person, where a judge and a attorney now appear. If there's somebody held at the centralized arraignment, they'll appear at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Had 64 of those for the month of May, which was down from 80 some the month prior to that. We also had attorneys on call for City of Auburn for between 9 and 4 p.m. for appearance with counsel. There was 47 of those appearances for the month of May. And also in town court, we had 8 first appearances. Our goal for this year was to have a defendant represented at every stage of their process, of their due process. And through these ILS grants, we're very successful. And I don't believe there's a court that will arraign a single defendant without having an attorney present. These funds that we were successful in getting provide us the ability to provide an attorney for every arraignment. We couldn't say that a couple years ago, but we're in compliance in terms of ILS regulations, having defendants arraigned, having attorneys at the defendant's arraignments. The only one correction I have is in the family courts. I had put in my report that we had 15 assignments. That needs to be corrected to 44 assignments. And lastly, I received yesterday notice from the comptroller's office. I think I brought it to the committee's attention a couple months ago that we were applying for $262,000 in 100% monies to help offset the complex cases that we have. I found out yesterday that we were awarded that grant. It's a 3-year grant, so it's roughly $87,000 a year to help offset costs of what we consider some complex and high-profile cases. Other than that, Mr. Chair, I'm available for any questions or concerns.
Any questions for Lloyd? Yeah, thank you very much for your report.
Thank you, Ben.
See you next month.
Okay.
Next on the agenda would be Dr. Duckett, our coroner. I don't believe he's on the call. So we'll move right along to Mr. Boodlin with the DA's office.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have one resolution brought forth this third iteration. We tried to slow it down and hopefully it's good to go. This is to create and fill the deputy chief assistant district attorney and unfunded senior assistant district attorney. There's money in the budget. We'd ask the
Well, it's not normal, but as a chair, I'd like to make the motion for this one. I will say that if we had talked probably 2-3 months ago, I would have already been done, but that didn't happen. So do I have a second? Hans, second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carry. Thank you.
Thank you. Other than that, we're busy. We've had some trials scheduled and gone. We've got hearings going on, grand jury going. Unfortunately, it looks like we're gonna have a busy summer.
Yep.
Other than that, we're at full staff and everyone's pulling on the yoke, so things are going in the right direction. Thank you.
Any other questions for the DA? Elaine, did you have some?
No,
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Gail, I think you're on the call.
I am. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I was called out of town and I missed the deadline to get a report in. But I do have some updates. For those at the northern end of the county or who hear from folks up there about the lake level being low, it is still rising. It's scheduled to go up another 2 inches before now and July 4th. So that will make some people better access to their boats and stuff. The hazard mitigation plan that I have mentioned in several months, we found out yesterday that the state completed their review. There were a couple of small items of some inconsistent information, but I got with the contractor and they spoke with the state. They expect to have that straightened out and off to FEMA probably by the end of next week, which is great. We've been doing a lot of work trying to bring grants up to date and not lose money. And we've been doing a major shuffle because one hits the end of its 1-year extension actually at the end of this month. We wound up with about $30,000 that we're going to be able to use for interoperable communications, which is going to help various EMO activities and more importantly, provide some much needed funds for the sheriff's department to upgrade the technology in their vehicles. So that's been a lot of grant work, trying to make sure we don't leave any money on the table. We've had fire training classes come back online and we've been very busy. They put in a new scheduling and registration system, which is not really user friendly. So the registrations came in to us and Harry's been working with the state to get those all situated so we can continue the fire training. We have selected a new employee for our administrative person. The first candidate changed their mind, but we do have another candidate that we feel will be very good in the position. So hopefully we'll get them on board in maybe the next 3 weeks or so. The Ems Emt Refresher, they had their skills test on Saturday. I think their written test is this week or next week. So that was another successful endeavor to keep more EMTs on the street. And interestingly, there were a couple in the class that had gotten away from it a few years ago and had decided that with the shortage we have throughout not only the county, but the state, that they would come back and recertify and try to help out. So that was all plus. And we're working with a contractor to come up with some cost figures to do the repairs we've talked about or building at the fire training center out on Quarry Road. So we hope to have some of those figures, at least the starting point, here in the next week or so. Other than that, everything's continuing to move along with COVID testing. We're doing that 1 day a week at Cayuga Community College and looking forward to EMS classes in the fall. So with that, I'll ask if there's anything I can add or clarify.
Thank you, Dale. You answered all the questions I was going to have for you. So are there any other leaders that have any questions for Dale? Other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you all for your time.
Jay Westphalier. Jay on the call.
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Nothing substantial from probation at this point in time. A couple of minor things. We do have interviews set up next week with 3 candidates for our vacant senior typist position. We did bring 100% of department staff back into the office after we returned from the Memorial Day holiday. This was in response to the continuing increase in business that we're receiving out of the courts. We are still allowing staff flexibility to work from home with permission of their supervisors on a scheduled basis. That seems to be working very well. And at this point, that's about all from probation.
Thank you. Any questions for Jay? Thanks. Have a great evening, Jay.
Thank you, sir.
And Sheriff, you're up.
Good evening. A few updates on top of the report I submitted. We're still struggling trying to come up with the inmates for the inmate work group to get some outside work done and provide the services that we have years past. We may have an inmate or 2 that have recently come and been sentenced with us that we can get out there, but it's really put quite a strain on not only our maintenance staff, but I know Gary Duckett's as well, trying to get things done at the park that the inmates used to do. But I wanted to bring that up because I just wanted to give a shout out to Gary Duckett and his maintenance staff at the public safety building, because they've been really stepping up and going above and beyond, making sure that the lawns are mowed and doing a lot of the work that we try to get inmates out there to take care of. And we just don't have staff dedicated to do it, but they've really been stepping up and making sure that our maintenance needs are not on top of all of that. So hopefully we can get that resolved and get some of those things taken care of. And actually, the reason I'm dressed down tonight is because I was actually tuning up some painting in our building this morning, because we haven't had the inmates to do that. So normally I would be wearing jeans to this meeting, but we got some of those things taken care of this morning. We provided some incident command system training. Dale Currier provided that for our supervisors, our road patrol supervisors. So I wanted to give a shout out to Dale and thank you for that. It's great to have somebody in that position to partner with on these types of things and have a partner in that role. So I'm glad that he's there. He did a great job on the training today. Me and Harry were both out, so I appreciate that. The only other thing I wanted to mention, Denise Fingler brought up utilizing Indeed for advertising for that position. We're probably going to try to do the same thing for a full-time nursing position at the jail. I've really seen the dynamic change over the last couple of years here. It's very hard to get applicants for really any position, and we're struggling to find applicants potentially hire for some of the improved some time ago. And I'm hopeful that the resolution tonight for the full-time nursing position will be passed. We can fill that, but we're going to have to likely advertise with Indeed, and that is somewhat costly. But I just bring that to your attention because it's really becoming challenging to recruit, and it seems that there's a little bit of an increased amount of turnover in all of the positions. So I think it's something we're just going to have to keep an eye on going into the budget season. We may have to look at some additional funding for recruiting or determine how we can efficiently work on recruiting, because I don't like taxing law enforcement staff with recruiting. It just doesn't seem like a good use of resources. But With that too comes a lot of additional background investigation work. So our detectives have been busy with additional backgrounds. I remember, not so long ago when I was in the criminal investigations division, we would work on background investigations maybe a couple times a year, but it seems like recently it's just constantly something that they're working on all the time. I just think that may be something that we're going to continue to see moving into the future. But other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I do have 3 resolutions.
Yeah, before we get to resolutions, any questions from the Elaine?
I'm hoping the answer is yes, but did the adjustment to the RN salaries apply to the RN staff at the jail that was recently done countywide?
They did not.
Okay, so I don't know what your salary structure is, so that would be,
It could be a factor.
okay, but when we made the adjustments, we did not include I know we did mental health, we did DSS, and we did health, but it didn't apply to the nursing staff there.
No.
Okay, different union.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and then just to speak to that, Indeed, I mean, that is something that our HR struggles with. Indeed is such a popular place for people to go to look for work. They'll often go to Indeed before they would go to a county website or anywhere else. So we need to think about that as a county, supporting HR and their budget to include more money to put things on Indeed, as well as a couple other sites there. I found on the search committees I've been on, when she switched over to Indeed, just like Denise said, you get a large pool of candidates that are waiting. So it's just something we need to think about. But I appreciate you bringing it up.
And the unsentenced inmates are ineligible to be on a work crew. You have to be in the jail sentenced, and that number's increasing, but it's still low, even with the courts opening up. Is
It
that?
is still currently low, and we can't, just because an inmate sentence, it doesn't necessarily qualify them to go outside the building. It would depend on the type of sentence they have, the criminal history they have, and a lot of factors. So, and we do have positions within inside the building that we need to utilize trustees for that tie up some of those positions. So we do have inmates delivering meals throughout the facility and doing some cleaning and things like that. And
They have to be sentenced as well to do those kind of tasks?
we can use some
Okay.
unsentenced for those, but predominantly they're sentenced inmates that are doing those duties inside as well.
Okay.
But we do have to have sentenced inmates.
What is that number now? Is it much higher? or-
19, I believe. So
So
Sure, so piggyback on that. So you do have the security that you need if you have the bodies to help. Or are you short staffed on that too?
well, I do have one resolution in for custody staff. We are short 7 positions in the jail. I anticipate a resignation coming next week and potentially 2 retirements moving into the future here this year. So we are down 7. I do have another member that's out due to an assault. He broke his ankle, he was assaulted by an inmate. And another member that's out on a work-related injury. Hopefully she'll be back. So it does get very difficult, when you have the injuries on top of the vacancies. So looking to fill those 5 positions. We're currently down 7, but losing a couple more here in the near future. It's not going to get us to full staffing, but I think it's going to be manageable for a period of time. And as you know, last year we didn't seek to fill positions during the height of the pandemic. We were able to get by with the staff. Things are starting to get busy again. The courts are moving, and as the DA said, things are going on with grand jury in the courts, and that requires us to move inmates and extra staff to do that.
are you worried about that staff too? I mean, getting those positions filled is like you would the nurse or not?
It's become more challenging, and we're doing a lot of recruiting for our road patrol positions to get people to take our road patrol test as well as our custody test, the civil service exams. We never used to have to do that, but leading up to these exams, we're doing a lot of recruiting in person at different locations, online, doing everything we can to entice people to take that test. We never used to have to spend that time. We would put the number there and we'd have a large.
You wish I was still in Power. He's next to a gas station with a.
Now, so we're working it. We are getting people to sign up for the exams, not nearly as many people as we used to, but that's difficult as well because only so many actually show up and take the test. Only so many pass, And then there's a lot of work to do after that with background investigations and physical agility tests that weed out quite a few more. So it's difficult. I think we have about 60 people taking our custody tests this month, but by the time you work through all of those things, you're really lucky if you can get 5 to 10 quality candidates to be able to take a look at.
Sure. I guess it's a two-part question. Does the CID division do pistol permits? Do the background investigation for the pistol permits? And if so, it's my understanding that pistol permit applications are up. How's that affecting your?
Yeah, so Detective Lieutenant Cornelius is here tonight. He oversees the criminal investigations division, and he also oversees our identification officer that does the background investigations for new pistol permits, as well as taking care of amendments if somebody were to add a pistol to their permit, and things like that. So this year we have seen an increase. We are up. I think we're on track to probably process about 300 plus pistol permits this year. And I think we did in the low 200s last year. So we're processing quite a bit, but that's a full investigation as well. And that takes time. So we've seen an increase in that area too.
Thank you.
Okay, if there aren't any other questions, I would entertain the motion to bundle AP 2, 3, and 4. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
Any other issues to come before this committee? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
And all in favor?
All right.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much.
Say so.
They have a long lead.
Maybe